Welcome to the show. This is Hollywood Matt Connelly with the double biceps. It is in the contract a legal requirement every single time we appear on camera. It's got to make sure that the lawyers are happy and the box has been ticked. They've definitely seen one bicep there, and then there's the second bicep there. Definitely not something that we made up to show off the biceps of 23 and a half years in the gym. It's not something like that whatsoever. But we've got the man, the myth, the legend. It is none other than I'm gonna have to remember the intro because it's been a while since we've done it here. But it is the master of disaster, the king of sting, the count of Monte Cristo. It is Thunderlips, the ultimate male. It is your friend and mine. It is the winner of the Dave Stockbridge of the Year award. Again, picking it up for 2024. He has picked it up again this year. Another solid victory.
It's been a good year.
Was last week, I believe, that you put the announcement up that you'd secured it again this year. It is none other than Dave Stockbridge. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much for that very, very warm welcome. As always, Hollywood Matt Connelly. We were just mentioning before, it's been so long with that since we've actually spoken voice to voice. It's always via chat group these days, and so it's wonderfully refreshing to see you face to face and to hear your voice firsthand rather than just listening to it on a podcast or via a YouTube video. So so fantastic to actually speak with you once again, Hollywood.
Yeah, that's right. Well, same for me. I mean, because I'm seeing your real estate stuff every day online and Instagram and all the rest of it, and it's like, yeah. And then we talk in the chat groups and stuff like that. But to be able to jump on together at the same time is always a pleasure and a privilege for me. So, and the good thing is we've got a couple of the regulars, or the SA Titans arm wrestling chat members have jumped in here. We got David Hux, and he says hello fellies. I think he meant fellow fellas, but
I hope so. I don't know what a fellies is. But I don't know. Hux might be able to fill us in on that. Maybe it's a Riverland reference, and we're just not hip to it.
That's right. Probably that's where all the references start, from the Riverland. Brandon Chan is here. He says, "Morning, legends. Happy to see Big Dave again." Morning. It is 8:00 at night, Brandon. I don't know where you are. you should be here in Adelaide as well. I don't know where you are, but
was he there on Sunday?
Yeah.
How did he get away so quick? I mean,
I don't know. He's gone complete other side of the world somehow. Fox 8
Life
Ball
of a
is here.
FIFO, you don't know, do you?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Fox 8 Ball, he's here all the way from Scotland. He says, "Yo, Count Sepula, what's up, mate?" Count Sepula, that's always great. And Mr. Dave, this gives you a nice little biceps there. And it was a typo from Huxley. It wasn't a new lingo from the real Anne.
Okay. I thought we were on to something there.
We were going to learn about the Riverland sayings.
The Riverland subculture.
Before we jump into anything else, can you tell us about your son Tommy and his work with the translation of the language that he was doing last week?
Oh, yeah, sure. So Thomas has been developing a non-Latinized script for Bangla, which is the indigenous language of the people on the Eyre Peninsula, which is like the real southern middle part of South Australia. It's a language that essentially became extinct with its last speaker passing away in the late 1960s. And since then it lay dormant. There's been a professor who out of Cambridge and Oxford found his way to Adelaide, who's been helping the Gulna people, who are the indigenous people of Adelaide and the people of the York Peninsula, in terms of reviving their language, and over recent years has turned his attention to Bangla. And so Thomas has been working with Professor Gilad Zuckerman, and this week made a presentation to some of the leaders of the Bangla community, and from that's come some really interesting feedback because the indigenous languages weren't written, and so although they did have some symbols and communicated often through art, but it was mostly storytelling. It was very oral language, so it is a little bit controversial because the languages are being in some part uh, in their being revitalised. There's because there's so much a greater need for greater vocabulary. There's some degree of invention of words and the like as well. And so to overlay that with an additional a script, it was thought to be something that might be a hard thing to have adopted, but to use some of what he's developed in terms of making it easier for storytelling and art. It was something that might be really useful. So it might have more universal applications across other Indigenous languages as well. So I don't know where he got his brains from, but it's something, yeah, that he's been chipping away with, and now hopefully working more closely with the people of the natives, or those natives, or those people that should be native speakers, if there was a continuance and in the language. But because there's this little link in the chain, it's all about mending that. So hopefully the Bungalow can then, further and deepen the use of their own language amongst their community, and maybe share it more broadly amongst the greater community in that region.
Yeah, absolutely. What was it like? What was the reception like when he presented it to them?
Yeah, it was interesting because they, well, so there's the thing within, it seems, within a lot of Indigenous communities, like it's not like one group represents all. There's little factions, and there's people that come in hard on the side of almost every major issue, and so it was hard to know exactly how the elders would see it. Would they think, oh, Thomas has been precocious and a little bit presumptuous here, and why do we need another, a white kid, telling us blah blah blah? But they were really curious that they actually thought Thomas had done it as a school assignment, and Thomas explained, no, it's something he's been doing, researching, working with Gillard and another linguist, Stuart Blair, and that he'd actually been teaching the language for the last 12 months. Was They were really in awe of, because they were really only learning their language themselves, and so Thomas had a comparable knowledge of their language as they did, and so they thought it was like quite admirable that somebody had bothered to learn their language, and what was his motivation here? Like, it was a bit of a weird kind of thing, and so it was just out of kind of interest that he decided to apply his considerable intellect to that particular course for whatever reason. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's fantastic. Yeah, it was very interesting to say, because I think I'd asked you last week. It's like, hey, do you want to do a show? And you're like, well, I'm heading out to the Eyre Peninsula with Thomas, and he's presenting this language to the people. They're like, hang on, what? What?
Yeah,
you,
it's
you're
crazy.
doing
Yeah,
what?
yeah, yeah. It's really interesting, and yeah, and they were, but importantly, they were really open minded. And you never know where these things might go. Hopefully, it helps somebody, and you know, see where it all ends up. But back
Absolutely.
to all things arm wrestling, that was a very, very much a divergence, and now you must be wondering, why did I ever ask that question?
No, it's great. Well, it's something that's different and interesting that is happening in your world, and why not? Because sometimes this is what's interesting with podcasts, is that conversation can go anywhere. And I remember James Hetfield, the lead singer of Metallica, going on the Joe Rogan podcast, and I was like, "Oh, this is going to be great! I'm going to hear all about Metallica and everything." They talked about beekeeping for about 2 hours. I was like, "I was really interesting, but it wasn't what I was expecting." So, because
Yeah.
apparently, like, he's really into keeping bees, and he knew all about it, and that's where it went.
Well, you know how sometimes, like, you'll go down a rabbit hole with something on social media, or just a subject matter or something like that. For some reason, Tito Ortiz keeps coming up with all of his famous misquotes, essentially, and things that he just didn't say. And the first time I saw one video, and I went, "Oh yeah." And then there was another, and now, like, I reckon there's a whole lot, there's volumes of them. And I thought, Matt would love this. Have you seen them?
I've seen many of them. Yeah, he tends to mix up his words quite a bit. And my favorite, I think, that he said was that 90% of this game is 50% mental. So yeah, he tends to, I think, speak faster than he doesn't get the words lined up properly before he says them, and they definitely run out incorrectly when they come out of his mouth. But he was doing some in cage interviews after the event with some fighters, and then he's like talking to Vitor Belfort, and he's after the interview's finished, he's like, "Put your hands together for Vitor Belfort, one of the greatest light heavyweights of the night." So, yes. Oh, that's great. We'll touch on the comments quickly here. Fox 8 Ball says bungalow, which is I think a little bit. It's a different sound than what Dave was referencing. We use that for the name of a house, and we do that here as well. Anyone know if there's any Aboriginal people at pool? I'm sure that there is.
Have to be.
Yeah, I'm not familiar off the top of my head, but there would be. I'm sure around the place. Fox Hable says Mike Crocodile Dundee was a puller. Him and Lincoln Hawk were mates, definitely. That was the sequel, the unplanned sequel that didn't go ahead. School Lady Boy. I love that nickname. There's a couple of funny nicknames on here that always make me laugh, and that's one of them, School Lady Boy. My other favorite one is Sylvester Stallone. And Huxley says, "Are you still training, Dave? Have you had a super match in a while?"
I haven't had a super match in ages. Well, I've been training with my son, which has been helpful because he's been getting stronger. So, and he's getting pretty good. Yeah, I don't know if there'll be any return to the competitive table. Matt could probably drop me off the rankings. I literally got injured walking into this room. It was super brittle. Every time I try to exert myself, I end up in pain for 2 days. It's cost me hundreds of dollars in physio appointments just to be able to get to work. It's just crazy. So
you got attacked by the rug that's slightly too big for the room.
that's right. I just on the way in here. Yeah.
Well, that's great. Should we talk about the news that we've got for AWE, the Grand Prix 2, which will be taking place on the 27th of October here in Adelaide? We have a certain change to the card which needs to be addressed or announced for people that will be watching the event.
Well, it does need to be announced. So when we set forth our calendar for this event, what we hadn't bargained on was a little change that needed to occur because Hollywood Matt Connelly and Ryan Bowen are heading over to be the English commentators for the Pro Punja League. So this is hugely exciting. I believe there was over 30 million people tuning in to the Pro Punja League final last year. This is their second season. It's going to be even bigger and better than last year, and Hollywood Matt Connelly and Ryan Bowen are going to be a big part of all of that going on. So, and they'd had a delay due to some venue issues, and so that kind of pushed things back a little bit from their end, which put a bit of pressure on our date, which meant one Indian superstar that we would have loved to have had on the card wasn't going to be able to compete, which was, very disappointing. But it also meant that we needed to move the AWE event 1 week back in order just to give everybody plenty of time in order to get our AWE event, of course, executed beautifully. So, and that was the AWE Grand Prix, which was to also feature a much anticipated female bout between Sarah Backman and Ashley from New Zealand, New Zealand's strongest woman. So she was going to be on the card competing against Sarah Backman. So big match, and unfortunately because of the pushbacks in the dates and other commitments that became available or other opportunities that became available to Sarah, that really pinched the time frame around the event. Sarah's not able to make her way across the pond to Australia, because also we do understand, like, it's a long way to come, and when you get here, you don't want to just be here for a few days and head straight back. So it just meant that in the end we weren't able to do that match, but we do have a replacement matchup nonetheless. Well, actually two, so right hand match and a left hand match, and Matt will talk more to that. So we've got, and of course, the AWE Grand Prix, which, I guess we can dive into. But Matt, really disappointing that Sarah wasn't able to, make it for us. And yeah, yeah, it was brutal, and it was sad news to share with Ashley as well. And I know how much she was really looking forward to that opportunity to really, see how she go against somebody that's truly world class. And of course, Sarah's got the huge, she should be the most famous female arm wrestler in the world, and so she was obviously going to be a a great target, somebody to really aspire to beat or just to be competitive against, and especially at these early days of Ashley's career. So it would have been really interesting to see where the level was there for her, and to see, how that might have been maybe a springboard into other international matchups. So sad on all fronts, but I'm sure Ashley's coming over anyway, so we've got a couple of great matches there for her. She can test herself against some of Australia's best.
Yeah, absolutely. Keziah Harrington is Australia's top female arm wrestler, and she's, I believe, got a history with Ashley as well. And
Mm.
yeah, so she's stepped up to replace Sarah for these matches. So yeah, it's going to be incredible to have that happen. But yeah, a bit frustrating that schedules don't work out all the time, and when you're trying to coordinate so many people at once, it inevitably you're going to get people that dates clash, and we've had weddings, and we've had all sorts of things that causing people to not be able to make it into that certain date. And then obviously when you change dates, you've got to repeat the process and make sure everyone's available yet again.
Yeah.
But yeah, which unfortunately Sarah wasn't able to make it on this occasion. But yeah, hopefully we'll get her out here at some time uh, in the future. But for Ashley Hoeta from New Zealand, as you said, as New Zealand's strongest woman, and she won the East versus West qualifier on her left arm, and so Keziah will be stepping up and taking on her in Adelaide on the 27th of October. And it's going to be an incredible event overall. We'll have the AWE Grand Prix 2, which is an 8-man double elimination tournament. And following that, we'll have the super match with Ashley and Keziah.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And I guess this is going to be a different style of event to what people might have seen of our last couple, where we took AWE Underground. AWE Grand Prix is coming out from the embers, is making its way onto the big stage, and should be a beautiful production as well.
Yeah, like the thing I like about it is that it is different to everything else that is sort of happening around the world at this point in time. We're seeing most of the events that are out there, the promotions that are on, are the super match format, and we've done that with AWE 1 and added AWE 2, and I do like that format. I think it does work, but to
Yeah.
have different things that are going on and seeing arm wrestling presented in a different way
Mm.
is very interesting. And rather than saying, okay, this is the format that's always going to be for arm wrestling, there's always just going to be super match format. It's like, well, no, this is a tournament, and because it's an 8-man double elimination, the whole thing is done in just over an hour and a half, and so you're getting the whole event done very, very quickly, as opposed to some of the super match cards, which can take 6 or 7 hours.
Mm.
And the
Yeah,
fact that you're
yeah,
seeing the drama of the event, like,
unfold.
unfolded live, and you're seeing this guy beats this guy, which now adds to this matchup, which now adds to this matchup, which now, and it's like you're working towards that grand final, which you get to see an hour after the start of the event.
Yeah. Yeah, it all just the whole journey is you kind of get through it quicker. So I liken it to it's like the 2020 of arm wrestling. You get through that whole series of storylines just in a much more timely fashion, and it crescendos at the end. It's at the end there will be a champion. There will be an AWE heavyweight champion, and will that be Rickard Ballman? And the other thing I love about this format is that for athletes, I know athletes are looking to step up the ladder and they want to beat this guy and beat that guy. And there's a lot of sensitivity now around what matches athletes are picking in order to try and make their way onto bigger and better stages and bigger paydays, all of that type of thing. It's all completely understandable. It's very much like most of the fight sports in that regard. But the cool thing with the tournament is the pressure's off. I mean, you can literally beat the strongest guy and lose on the day. I mean, it depends on luck, the draw, how these matches play out, little quirks along the way. For instance, instead of just being best of one and move on, best of two, all of a sudden you think there's opportunities amongst that for athletes that might not have seemingly been the favourite to come through and be the Stephen Bradbury of arm wrestlers and come through the other side. So I mean, it's not completely crazy to feel like a Taron Broad might be there on the table at the end with a chance of winning. So this is the really exciting thing, and does it matter to the stature and the opportunities that the athletes have in the supermatch world? Not in the slightest. Like, it really
That's
has
right.
no impact. I mean, everybody's got to take it with a grain of salt. The result that you get in an 8-man double elimination tournament is not really. It doesn't translate into what might happen in a super match with probably any of those guys that you're competing against in that format anyway. You know,
Exactly right. Exactly right. I just want to bring in Stephen Carroll, who's one of the members of the SA Titan Arm Wrestling Club, who's very
international arm
patiently.
wrestler,
He is
international arm
now.
wrestler Stephen Curry.
That's right, officially an international arm wrestler, and he's had a match overseas. It was Indonesia or Singapore. But welcome to the show, Stephen, the Squid Carroll.
Mm.
Hey, thanks for having me on again.
Oh, that's great. And how's things going over there? Whereabouts are you at the moment?
So I just left Jakarta and now we're in Bandung.
Which country is that?
So Indonesia.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that's where you had your match.
Yeah. So sorry, my throat's so stuffy being over here. The air quality is not great. Yeah, I had my match over in Jakarta. That was on the day after I landed. So
Oh, great. Fantastic. Well, yeah, so that we're just talking about the difference, the change that's occurred in the AWE event we here in October the 27th. But yes, unfortunately, Sarah Backman not able to make the event, but we do have the replacement with Keziah Harrington going on against Ashley Holter. But you will definitely be coming along to the event, I believe, Steve.
oh yeah, I'm sure that sounds like a great time.
Yeah, as well as the 8 people that will be competing in the event. We've got them all secured and locked in. The announcement of that, I'm not sure if we're going to do that now, but we may possibly save that for something else. But
Do you want to announce one name? Do you want to? Do
well,
you want to announce somebody?
there's probably a couple that are pretty obvious returning people to the event.
Oh, well, do you want to say the obvious ones?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Well,
so reigning and defending champion.
yeah, so Rickard Bornman will be competing and trying to defend his AWE heavyweight title, which he won at the previous event, winning 4 matches in a row and going through undefeated. So he is returning to defend his belt at this event. And we have somebody in the comments who may actually be one of the 8 people as well. It is none other than Taron Left Arm Broad, and that is. He says he's too kind, Dave. With the heaviest superstars in this 8-man event, I'll be happy to make any of them a match. I'll be bringing my strongest shape regardless. So that's one of the other competitors there is Taron Broad, the Giant Killer.
Nothing left for the Giant Killer, indeed.
That's right. The hook specialist. He's about mid to high 80 kilo range, I think, at this point in time. And he has wins over some of the top heavyweights in the country. So yes, be great. So that's 2 there. We'll also be seeing the return of Ryan Bowen in this event as well. So that's 3 of the 8 that are
Ooh.
announced. Who is another obvious one that we could think of? Hmm.
I don't think the rest are actually obvious. Here's the thing.
Yeah, we've got a couple of ones people would never have seen before. So
Never. Debutantes, AWE debutantes.
that's right. And giving them an opportunity. Well, we might as well just say it, I think, if we just go through the list. I don't know. It's better to have it out there than,
All right.
the 3.
There we
So,
go. All
all right. So we've got Marcus Atirai, who will be returning, the Tahitian Wrecking Ball, this 165 kilos of fury. He's coming down with Ryan Bowen and Richard Blomden. All 3 of those guys will be coming down from Queensland to compete in the event. Taryn Broad as well. So that's 4. That's 4 or 5. Marcus Atirai, Ryan Bowen, Taryn Broad, Richard Blomden is 4. We've also got the number 1 arm wrestler from Tahiti will be coming down as well. The Tahitian Giant, I believe he goes by. TNT. And so that'll be a big test for all the guys here, and it'd be a great opportunity to see how Tahiti's level is comparatively to the rest of the Southern Hemisphere. So the number 1, the Tahitian Giant, will be one of the mainstays at this event. Who else is in there? We have Charles. Oh yes, that's right. From New Zealand, he'll be Charles Puri, who is a very, very high level arm wrestler from New Zealand who hasn't really been given a big opportunity at this point in time to showcase his skills. So this is one of the best things that we could do to showcase and say, hey, we put a spotlight on New Zealand arm wrestling. We obviously know Mataringi Morris and the giant that's been over there and undefeated for 10 years and bench press champion and everything else. But you don't tend to hear too much about the other guys that are there. And there are some very, very elite pullers, and Charles Puri being one of those, but he will be competing in the event as well.
Yeah.
As well
when
as
we spoke to Matarungi about that, he was like, look, I would love to be, he's got the commitments as well around that time of year. And he said, but, Charles is like so close. He's so close. And he'll give all of you guys like a run. Like, here's the thing, this guy's, he's been getting there. And he's closer than he's ever been before. And to see how he's going to go on a bigger stage is going to be super exciting.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And one of the other ones that people would not have really recognised is Joel Hewitt, a Stretch from South Australia, originally from Sydney, but has moved over to Adelaide. 6'8", 150 kilos, mega top roll. This man is incredibly strong. We had a demo at one of the gyms here a few weeks ago, and part of the demo was like their birthday celebration thing, and they brought in a few different things. They said, arm wrestling, can you guys come along and show people arm wrestling? Yeah, no worries. So we were doing that. But they also had like a bench press competition and a deadlift competition. And near the end of the night, Stretch had said to them, what's the score for your best deadlift? And they were like, oh, somebody's picked up like 230 kilos or something like that. And he's like, oh, okay then. And then he goes and loads up like 320 or something on the rack as well, and lifts it off the rack, walks it out backwards, takes it all the way to the floor, lifts it up, and then walks it back to the rack. And they were like, yeah, okay, you win.
So yeah, Stretch has that strongman background, and he is a giant. I mean, he's literally, he's just a specimen. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how he stacks up. And this is the great thing about the tournament structure. That you've got some new names in the mix this time around, and any of them are a chance.
Yeah,
any
absolutely.
of them could walk away AWE heavyweight champion.
That's right. Well, the runner-up at the previous event, Brett Coots, will also be returning. And
yes.
Yeah, we're talking about, that anything can happen. I think it was a very great showing for Brett at the last tournament, because he was ranked, I don't know, 6th or something like that, or seeded 6th, and he came second in the whole thing. And so,
Yeah.
Interestingly, Rickard was named 4th. I think he was seeded 4th, and he ended up winning the whole event. So, yeah, that's
You just don't know.
exactly right. That's what's fun about it.
Yeah, yeah, and for any one of these guys, AWE Grand Prix could have the same effect as what it has for Rickard. He's now very much in demand. He's being spoken about all around the world. The people are wondering, who's this kid from South Africa? How did he find his way onto AWE? What's going on now? And we really want to see the same for all of these athletes. Really, we want to see them up on the big stage. We want to see them like Ryan Bowen on the weekend. There at Knuckles Up. In front of the big bright lights and in front of camera and making a living out of the sport. That's what we want to see.
Absolutely, for sure. What do you think, Stephen, of that lineup? But I'll just repeat it quickly so you know who's going to be there. So we've got Ryan Bowen, Rickard Bourneman, Brett Coots, Taryn Broad, Marcus Satirai, the Tahitian Giant, Joel Stretch Hewitt, and Charles Puri.
Well, as you said, I think it's definitely it's going to be some very good matches. It's a great opportunity for Rickard because obviously he's very up and coming. That was a name that a lot of the people over here was asking him about as well. So he's clearly kind of getting some global recognition at this point. Joel is also going to be an interesting one because he hasn't really had the opportunity for a match like this. But with his size and frame, I think he'll get some good matches. And I'm also obviously looking forward to hopefully seeing Taryn get that rematch with I'm spacing on the name right now.
Brett Coots.
Brett, that's it. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of fun matches within that. So I'm definitely very excited. But hopefully Rickard can kind of use this as an opportunity to kind of show where his level actually sits. So.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw that on the Knuckles Up event that took place on the weekend over it was either New York or New Jersey. It was one of the two. But they had Rickard jumped in at the halfway point and had a nice little discussion with a certain Hollywood Don Underwood. And they have lined up a match against each other in January at Knuckles Up. So big news for Rickard Bourneman there. So we'll get to see him before that at the AWE Grand Prix 2 and see how his form is and whether or not he is able to defend his title. But regardless of that, he will be going over to United States of America to compete over there against one of the legends of the sport in Don Hollywood Underwood.
That would be a very exciting match to see. I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely. Yeah. What was your thoughts on that, Dave, when we originally got the opportunity to book that and get that set up for Rickard?
Oh, I mean, for Rickard, Rickard's just keen. He would compete against anybody. Here's the thing. He was champing at the bit. Whoever it was that was saying they wanted a match, he would have jumped on a plane and headed over there. He's so keen to take on a big name. And when this opportunity came up, it's really novel, isn't it? Big, high profile arm wrestler, deep history, and then you've got this kid. He's been in the sport for 18 months. He's now on the same stage, and it's remarkable. It's a great story. It's a real old world, new world colliding kind of story here, and a great stage to have that match on. So I'm super excited for Rickard. I think it's going to be a great match. I think it's going to draw a ton of attention, and I think on the other side of it, there'll be even greater opportunities for Rickard Bourneman.
Absolutely, yeah. And the great thing about it, when Don Underwood was announced as the potential opponent, it was like we jumped all over that because when you get a man that has the charisma and the speaking ability and the history of being one of the best guys in the sport, in Don Underwood, it's like you want to get on the table with this man. And he has had recent hip replacement surgery, I believe, over the last couple of years. So he's on a bit of a comeback from that. but he is training hard, and he's pretty much been at like an event every weekend for the last couple of months. He's all over the place in terms of his commentary work, and he's been working very hard with the World Series of Arm Wrestling, and they're putting on events left, right, and center. And Don Underwood obviously working very closely with them, and he's promoting and going over and doing announcing work. But what a legend of arm wrestling in Don Underwood, and what a fantastic commentator as well. If you've ever heard him before, but the first time I heard him do commentary work was on the Monster Factory card, and I was like, wow, this is like listening to WWE wrestling. Like, it was just, he's got that voice, that style of speaking. So yeah, it's super exciting. He'll be able to sell the match. And Rickard, obviously, he's so nice. He's so humble. He's such a nice young man. The last thing he's going to be able to do is keep up in a trash talking department with anybody. So when you go up against somebody who has that king of trash talk in a way. I mean, not that Don is a nasty guy, but he has the ability to grab that microphone and entertain a crowd for 10 hours straight, and everyone at the end of the day, he's still at 100%, 10 hours in. So it's a perfect matchup from what we could see.
Yeah, and it's a remarkable rise for Rickard, isn't it? Like 12 months ago, I think he only posted today or the other day that he had that match with Mario Tambakis. And it was the final, I think it was one of the states or something like that, and Ricky got a win there, which was a bit of retribution for AWE too, and kind of since then he's really been on the climb, and now of course he's heading to New Jersey for Knuckles Up 5, and massive match on an international stage, and it's all just happened in 18 or so months.
Absolutely. And very, very exciting news for Rickard Vaughan. And Steve, can you tell us about your matchup and how it went over there? We've got Dave Hux is actually asking about that. But so you had a match against the number 1 ranked guy in Indonesia on right arm, and you also had a left arm match as well against was originally supposed to be a 60-kilo opponent who somehow magically turned into a 90-kilo opponent.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure what happened there. I think it might have just been miscommunication, or I might have just misunderstood what they've said. But I was fully expecting to come in with a left-hand match against a 60-kilo just guy who put his hand up. And then it turned out to be like a 90-kilo dude who's pretty much even tier with their top tier on the left. So it was definitely an interesting one, because I believe Bobby is still their number 1 on left, but him and the person I have had the match with on left are pretty even. Apparently, they just have massive wars when they have matches. So it was definitely not what I was expecting. But my left hand is my better arm, so it kind of worked out pretty well for me. And as for that right hand match, that was definitely not what I was expecting. He had a mega press. Was not prepared for that. I was thinking more like he was going to hook or top roll. I was also like, it was like 2-3 hours before the match started when I was waiting in the heat. So that definitely cooked my brain a little bit. But I feel like I just made a lot of rookie mistakes leading into that match. I think the biggest mistake I kind of made was allowing me to have the left-handed match first, and then also allowing Bobby to get a practice match with me on the left before we had our right-hand match. So.
Oh, okay. So hang on. Which one did you have first, the right hand or the left hand?
It was a left-hand match, and then immediately after the left hand, Bobby asked if we could do a practice match on left. So I was like, "Oh, okay, sure, let's do that." And then immediately after practice hands match with him on left, we went straight into our right-handed match. So.
Oh, okay. There you go. Well, we've got the match right here, actually. If we can, should we have a quick look through, and you can talk us through how you were feeling as the match took place?
Yeah, well, honestly, in the setup here, I actually felt like I had it, because I was pulling him off of like the center. I kind of felt like he was allowing me to load and pressure into the positions I was in. I just really didn't expect him to be able to sink in that Super Nation as much as he did. So.
All right. Okay. So this was the first round. Let's have a look how this plays out. So he's pulled back with a lot of back pressure, but you've got a decent position with your hand and wrist there. How are you feeling at this point?
So honestly, I felt 100% like I had this. I had the control. I was like, he's not going to be able to open my arm. It felt really good. And then my arm just keeps opening and opening and opening. And I didn't understand why until I noticed his elbow was like off the back of the pad. So I was like, okay.
Yeah, that's right. And you noticed, but the referees didn't.
Yeah, the referees didn't notice at all. And in fact, like even he demanded it go back and look at the replay. And I was like, come on, that was like clearly way off the back.
Yeah, let's have a look at that there. So right there, as he's transitioned, the elbow is not touching the pad anymore. It's all forearm on the back.
And see, when he even comes up to get back, his elbow's just off the pad altogether. But after he saw it, he recognized, went, oh, okay, yeah, fair enough.
Oh, that's good of him. Yeah, so we've got a restart here. So it's still 0-all. This is first to 3. He says, yeah, check the cameras. That's fine. And so right here, you've got a fairly carved angle. And then he definitely has changed from going from a top roll. He's in a press position. Did you notice that he'd changed to a press position?
Honestly, not really. Like he top rolled round 1, and afterwards they kind of mentioned he was going to try winning with a top roll all the time, even though his strongest lane is a press. But obviously after that first round, I think he realized going outside was not the best option for him. I was kind of expecting, cool, if I can get this hook, I've got the match. I didn't realize he wasn't just setting up for a hook, that he was setting up just to go straight through. So
all right, let's have a look how it plays out. So right there, yeah, you've gone in for the hook, but he's got the press position, and even though his shoulder is not quite lined up with his hand, he's still got enough strength to press through there.
Oh, way too much. Yeah, his press is absolutely disgusting. How strong that feels.
It looks megally strong as well. So in the second round here, he's set up for that press again. Did you have any change in tactics as to how you were going to combat it?
Yeah, well, as you can see, I kind of tried setting up for like a low hand because I was like, hopefully I can bail out and low hand and take his wrist. Low hand is definitely not my specialty at all, but in my mind, I was like, that's probably the best lane to try countering that press if I can take his head back. Unfortunately, his Super Nation Cup was just way too much.
Let's have a look how it plays out here.
Yeah, just sucked immediately under.
Yeah, so you were in the low hand for a second, like right there. You can see you were going for it. Yeah, his cup was obviously too strong. He's turned it right over. Yeah, so 2-0 down at this point. It's first to 3. What were you thinking at this point?
So this is probably the biggest mistake I made in the entire match because I set up very high post 2 because I was like, well, let's see if I can just completely cut him out of his shoulder and try just bringing the match upwards. I actually get the pin this round. Unfortunately, I got called for an elbow foul. I still think it was a micro, but apparently not. Unfortunately, because I got called a foul, I decided I'm not going to try the same strategy again, which is really silly because I believe if I tried and did the same thing, I might have had something. But this was definitely the best round I had.
Let's have a look. Yeah, so you've won the center there. And where is this foul? I'm just trying to find it. So right here, you're in a pretty good position. He's changed his angle. He's definitely not pressing at this point. He's going to sit back on his tricep and try to roll through to the middle, which you contained. And where is the foul there? Because it looked like he popped up.
I do have the footage from another angle, but basically I was here and I kind of went like this before the pin. So my elbow popped as I pinned.
Right.
But yeah, unfortunately, is what it is. I mean, it's right in between that line of like, is it just a micro foul or was it up long enough? So I can't really complain about it too much, honestly.
Okay, that's fair enough. But things looking better for you at this point in time. But then we get another start. He's gone for another top roll. He's given up on the press here. But have you employed the same strategy here, or you've changed what you're doing?
So that was the problem. If I had stayed with just setting up low and posting really high, like I did that last round, I may have had something. Who knows? Because that was where I was good. But I think because I got fouled in my mind, I was like, well, I'm just not going to try it again, which is obviously a very rookie mistake.
James Stewart, the Claymore from the UK, is saying that you've got too much side pressure, not enough drag there, and that you needed to keep dragging your elbow. But maybe it was
a possibility. His drag was so strong, though.
Yeah, he looks like a very powerful man. His forearms are ridiculously strong.
It shocks me. Like when I was watching videos of him previously before this match, I do not remember seeing him look anywhere near the stuff he is right now. So,
Oh god! All right, let's have a look at the last little bit here. So, yeah, he's just overpowered, and you've dropped
I
into
tried the
basically a
Kings.
king's move there.
I did have that in my back pocket, like I'll give it a go, but unfortunately, I could even tell from the angle I was in. I was like, I don't know how they haven't fouled me yet because I was in such a bad position. But I knew if I tried talking down anymore, it was just a guaranteed foul and potentially injury on my arm. So I just didn't want to risk it.
What is this dancing that he's doing?
Listen, I don't even know what was going on with you, to be honest. He was an interesting guy.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I've still got to put the left-hand match together that you've sent through. But yeah, it should be very exciting to see how that went. I know that you did better on your left than the right. But
Yeah,
Dave,
left was predominant. So
oh, absolutely. Dave, what were your thoughts on Steve's match there?
How did you go with the language barrier over there?
So luckily, I was actually down here with a friend who speaks Indonesian, so he was kind of just helping a lot. A lot of those boys did speak English though, but yeah, anytime they didn't, my friend kind of jumped in and started helping translate. In fact, the plan kind of was not to tell them that my friend spoke Indonesian, just in case I could gauge some information without them realizing. But once we got there, my friend kind of realized he has no idea how to translate stuff in arm wrestling terms from Indonesian to English, so there was no point.
Oh, Dave, your mic is gone very strange. You've got a really high pitch. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. It's changed you into a robot. We're getting a lot of feedback. Maybe that headphones is too close to your speaker or something. But oh, that's better. Well, it was for a second. We're getting a lot of static. We're getting a lot of static coming through from your.
Still now?
Okay. Yeah, you still sound like you're underwater at the moment. Maybe if you if you leave and rejoin, that might fix things. I'll just add you straight back in. Oh no, is that no? Okay, we'll wait for Dave to pop back in.
At least it's not my mic this time, you know.
No, that's all right. I mean, it always seems to happen with technology. Well, here we go. We'll see if it's any better. Okay, we haven't got the feedback sounds. That sounds better, Dave.
Yeah, that's way better.
That's better?
That's fine now.
Okay.
And just now we've got the feedback sound. It's just started again. I don't know. It might be something to do with the headphones. I'm not sure, but we're definitely getting a lot of crackling coming through from.
Stop now.
It has stopped
right?
now. Yes, that's better.
Yeah, that's way better.
Fingers crossed. Sorry, guys. My apologies.
Yeah.
Don't know what's coming.
Right.
Yeah. So what's the theme like?
Yeah, it's back even worse.
All right. I don't know.
Sorry, what?
Sorry.
Yeah, I did.
I don't know how to fix it.
I'll turn that down from it. Yeah, I'm not sure what the reason could be, mate. I don't know. It's all right. It's all right. But I'll put your volume down for a sec while you play around with the settings, and I'll talk to Steve for a sec if you want to play around with that and see if you can mess around with it. But yeah, so you said it was ridiculously hot, and you were sitting around for 3 hours in the heat waiting before your match.
Yeah, it was something like 2 to 3 hours. I think like the match was meant to be at 1, and I don't think I don't think my opponent got there until maybe like 2:33 ish. But then once he did arrive, it took like another maybe 30-40 minutes before he was kind of ready to have the match. So I mean, honestly, I might be over exaggerating the time because I was absolutely boiling and sweating, but I think that was roughly it.
Oh, right. So yeah, so you've been sitting around. Did you know that the match was like going to be a certain time, or was he just late, or it was?
I think he was late because I believe the match was meant to be around like anywhere between 1 and 2 o'clock. So all the other guys kept apologizing for him being late. So that was just is what it is. But I think as soon as he got there, we were meant to have a right-handed match. But because he had some other things he wanted to do beforehand, I think I ended up pulling my left-handed match, and then him left-handed. But I respect it. You know what I mean? Like, I think it was a like bit of a game on that side, like a mental game, and I didn't fight for anything differently. So I kind of respect the hustle. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't want to win based on having my opponent waiting around for hours for me in the heat. But
Honestly, I have no idea if that would have made a difference at all because he was just very, very strong, and I don't really feel like I have any excuse for the loss. But I do believe there was some strategy behind the way the day played out, and as I said, you kind of respect it. You know, arm wrestling does come into a lot of mental game, and I mean, even at the top level, they're always playing games trying to get to people's heads. So it may not have been a strategy on that part, and I mean, I have my own strategies, so it is what it is. But as I said, got to respect it and just take the L.
yeah, well, I mean, if you feel like it wouldn't have made any difference to the match, then that's fine. But I would hate to think that somebody is utilizing those sort of dirty tactics to try to win a match. I'm not saying that that's what happened. I'm just saying, like, if people have done that in other matches previously, or if whatever. I know that we had that issue with Nonyo and Paul Italia, and Nonyo was very late deliberately, and he came on after the match and explained his tactics of trying to stall and make Paul wait and get stressed that the match wasn't going to happen, and but it's kind of a nasty thing to do. I feel it's like, if you're there for a match, that's the important part. Like, get on the table and do your thing. And the mental warfare part, yeah, sure. But when you're just making people wait and be deliberately inconvenienced, especially the people that have paid to turn up and they're waiting to see the match as well, and they don't know what's going on, and it's just everyone, all the event organizers and everyone's confused as to what's happening, and I don't think it's a good look at all.
Well, I mean, the fun part was at the very end because, as I've talked about, I do the massage stuff. Bobby had an injury on his left arm. So it was kind of fun getting in there and just kind of watching, oh, no.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You got him back a little bit with the massage.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, don't get me wrong, I did do it all to help, but it's never a pleasant feeling.
No, that's right. That bloody rolling pin thing that you had, that you rolled my arm, and was it Ben's arm with? God, that was like torture.
Yeah, it was literally just a dog toy that's been repurposed into like a massage piece of equipment, but that is very uncomfortable.
It was insane.
But yeah, with the left-handed match though, I was very glad that I did come in with kind of a strategy because I knew he was a top roller. And because he was a top roller, I'm like, if I manage a top roll in round one, he's going to attempt to just hook me the next couple, hopefully, and that's kind of what played out. So when it comes to the mental games, I feel like I'm probably on the same level if I can get away with it.
Yeah, absolutely. But first sort of international match for you. I love the fact that you put your money where your mouth is, and not only, I think you were going in there for a holiday, but why not have a match at the same time? And you stepped up and took on not only a match, but you took on their number one guy. So well done for doing that. And number one on the left as well.
Yeah, well, the person I versed on left, I believe right now is not officially number one, but I know him and Bobby is their number one. Every time they pull, apparently they're like neck and neck. So it'll be interesting to see how far my left-handed opponent goes due to him only being arm wrestling, I think, for just over a year now. So very, very strong and connected to his top role. So unfortunately, he just has no one else other than Bobby there to really test his strength on left, because left isn't really a big deal over here. So he was just so excited afterwards just to keep jumping on me left, because he's finally got someone who's strong enough to really have a good match with him. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, that is interesting. So culturally, they're not interested in left arm wrestling as much.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of the vibe that I've gotten, and unfortunately, I kind of get that same situation sometimes. So there's a lot of competitions or big matches and events that don't incorporate left. So I know his pain when your left is your good arm, but yeah.
Yeah, well, it's always that secondary thing. I mean, primarily because, what is it, 1 out of 9 people are left-handed, so the majority of people, 8 out of 9, are right-handed. So that's where the trend is going to work towards. But I mean, you're right-handed anyway, so
Well, exactly right, and so is the guy I just versed, and a lot of people I know, like even Stretch is better with his left hand than he's right-handed. So I think I think there's just some people out there that their non-dominant hand is their better arm.
Well, David Hux says that he would like to give you a left-handed match.
Oh, anytime. I think I've got a match with Sam the week after I get back. So I don't know. Sometime after that, I'd be happy to pick up some more left-handed matches.
Yeah, well, somebody you don't want to go against is the Claymore, the James Stewart from the UK. He's a 6 foot, so it's a 6'8", I believe, and another 160 kilo giant. An absolute monster of a man over there who faced off against Matawaringi Morris at the Arm God event that I went to in Ireland, and he's been doing big things in the sport. And yes, it's great to see him in the chat here. We've also got Siren Franch from the SA Titans Arm Wrestling Club, and she says that she's right-handed, but she does prefer her left for arm wrestling as well. So yeah, it is interesting. And one trend that I've definitely noticed with beginners is in that first 3 months, it does seem to be that their less dominant arm, which is usually their left, it tends to be much better than their right. And my theory is that because people can't just overpower someone, like on their right arm, their dominant arm, they can get positions or they can just pin somebody just because they might be stronger than the other person, even though their technique is no good. But with their left arm, because it's not as strong, they have to rely on technique. So it's one of those things that in that first sort of 3 month period, you can see it's like you get on with someone and it's like, okay, you're right-handed, yeah, and you do right with them for a little while, and it's like, oh yeah, you're doing all right, your technique could be better here or there, and then on their left, it's like, wow, that's way stronger. It's like, you're definitely right-handed? They're like, yeah. It's like, your left is way better. So, yeah, did you find that was the case for yourself?
Yeah, I think like you're definitely onto something. It could just be as well that your right hand, you're obviously going to put way more force and torque because everything's connected. So you're going to more likely eat yourself or potentially more likely just drain that arm. So the left is going to end up picking up the slack with technique and stuff. Or it could just be everybody else is weaker on left. So those people that are good at left suddenly seem a lot better.
Yeah, that's true. Huxley says, no, not a match with you, Stephen, not again. I think he's talking about having a match with the guy from Bali. Okay, well, you can always reach out and set that up for yourself if you want to get over there, David. Let me know if you are actually planning to do that, and I'll organise it.
Well, I mean, I'd love to get some of those guys down here. I was talking to Bobby and even saying to him, like, you need to come down to Adelaide and have a rematch with me, or I think him and Taryn would have a really good match.
Oh, really? Yeah, well, that would be good. Do you think he would employ his press every round there against Tarrant?
Well, with Taryn, like I think especially with anyone who's a dominant hook puller, a press is actually a pretty dangerous lane to verse, just because you're wanting to go inside and they're also wanting to go inside, but they're committing so much harder than you are. So I think it'd be very interesting to see if someone like Taryn could stop that press on the bicep. Yeah, I think I definitely want to see that. So, but unfortunately, we'll see if we can actually get that to happen at one day.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. I mean, have any of them travelled to Australia previously, or?
I think the guy who was setting up my matches for me, I'm Teddy. I think he travels around the world pretty regularly, and I think when we first were organising the match, he was actually in Sydney, and this was only like 2-3 months ago. But okay. I think he's only like a 60 sort of kilo guy. He does compete, and he's competed in like high level like world comps and stuff before. But I think out of all the boys, he's probably the only one who'd be willing to travel down.
So he's 60 kilos, so he's really 90 kilos? Is that what he's like?
Well, once he gets here, yeah.
Once he gets here. In person, he's 90 kilos, but on paper, he's 60.
Yeah. Nah, he was very, very strong for his weight. We jumped on with the after balls, and I was actually pretty shocked with what I was feeling from him. I think I can see why he competes at such a high level of worlds on his weight, so...
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, James Stewart is just saying that the next event that he'll be at will be the Nationals over in the UK, and we'll see how he goes over there. And a guy in December from the Ukraine who lives up here. All right, sounds great. And I think Ryan Espy as well is on the cards. I think, yeah, but I'm not sure. Well, I'm not sure either. If you're not sure, I'm not sure. But Phil Woody is here. Always great to see Phil in the chat. Another one of the legends over in the UK. And yeah, it's great to see so many of the familiar faces in the chat there. So when are you heading back from Indonesia?
So I believe I get back on the 4th. So I've still got another 2 weeks roughly here. But this is just all like party mode at this point and just relaxing. So unfortunately, in the after pools, I did kind of injure my right arm. So I'm kind of trying to mend that one here. So hopefully it will be back to being good by the time I get back. So.
And what about left? I heard that no one could sort of hang with you on the left arm.
Well, honestly, by the end of the night, like the end of the training session, I was losing to every single person at their club because my tank was just completely gone. But while I was fresh, my left, I don't think I really like lost to anyone here, like in the training pools. But once again, like it's training pools, so it doesn't really equate to too much.
Yeah, that's right, and that's the thing is you go international and you go to a new club and like everyone there wants to pull against you, and you know by like the 30th person you've got nothing for them, and it's like they're like, man, this guy's so weak, and it's like, oh, I've been pulling for 3 hours straight. Like, what do you expect?
Oh, I think the last person I jumped on with was like a 50, 60 kilo guy who'd only been arm wrestling for like 6, 7 months. And I was like, no, I should have a little bit. And I was just getting absolutely floored. And I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, it was like that for us in well, for me in India on the second day, because we had the event on the Saturday. Then the Sunday we went to one of the local clubs. And yeah, it was, I think, 1 or 2 pulls in. I'm like, oh man, I started getting that same bicep pain that you experienced.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, this isn't any good. So it seems to be like I just can't do 2 days in a row. It's just too soon, and I can't recover.
Well, I think that's
fast
good
enough.
advice for everybody, right? So all the people at home, 2 days in a row, dangerous.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we did that
But
a couple of times.
sorry.
Oh, no, you're right, man. No, I was just going to say we did that a couple of times at the club because we had training on a Sunday night, and then the Monday night was when we did the gym demo, and it just happened to fall that was, you know, the Monday night was when their event was on, and so, you know, I tried to go easy on the Sunday, and then it still got me on the Monday. It was still destroyed me. And then, you know, I'm trying to talk to people like in the gym about arm wrestling, and I'm just in like absolute agony. My bicep is just rolling with pain.
The worst sales pitch for arm wrestling ever is when you're sitting there like going, no, it's great, it's fine. Like,
Yeah, no, there's rarely any injuries. And they're like, oh.
trying to not show tears. But the funny thing is like every time you do get gas, like you've been pulling for a couple hours, you don't feel like you are. Like you feel like, oh no, everything feels fine. I can put in 100%, and then you're just like, I don't even know what's happening when people are just pinning you and you can't do anything.
Yeah, it's awful, and you sort of, in a way, feel like, oh, I hope they don't think that this is what I'm like all the time, you know?
Yeah,
Because
no,
then
for
the,
sure.
the opinion, oh, you know, geez, that guy was bloody weak. Everyone was destroying him. He's terrible from it. And it's like, come on, man. It's like 3 hours in, and I've had a super match, and it's like, I don't know anyone here, so you know, you don't know what style they're going to be employing.
Yeah, I guess you just got to hope that they underestimate you enough to challenge you to a match, and you just go, okay, sure. Like,
Well, we've got somebody popped in who may be over in Indonesia there. So his weird Krampus thing is the nickname. And it says, Danny told me you lost to someone with the same name as me, Bobby.
yes, I did. Yeah, 3-0 loss. It was rough and very strong.
He did look like a very strong man. It's, his forearms were absolutely enormous. So does he have international experience?
Yeah, I don't know what comp they were saying. It was like IFA or something. He placed #1 in. I think like last year or the year before. Some like really big international comp. I think he placed #1 in his weight class, and I think another person from their club placed 3rd, I believe.
Wow, that's fantastic. Where was that held?
I have no idea. This was just them showing me pictures on their phones, and I think Sam from my club recently looked him up and said that he placed very high in like a world tournament. So.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, well, there you go. And you know, when you're facing off against someone like that, it's a new level of strength and skill that you know, when you're used to pulling the same guys at the club, yeah, and then you go up against somebody who has world international level experience. It's like it's such a different feeling.
I think going into it, I didn't even realize, I guess, how highly this guy has been placed in like a world tournament and stuff, which was good because I went in there with all the confidence in the world, like I was going to take the match. But afterwards and finding out all that stuff, and I guess seeing, like, I didn't even realize how big this guy's forearm was until I watched it back on the videos, and I was kind of like, oh, I'm kind of just happy that I was even being able to hang in there and give him some problems. So
yeah, was there any which way you think that you could have won that match?
honestly, like in my head, there's a million different things I would have wished I tried, or maybe did this differently or whatever. And I think for everybody, when they lose a match, there's every single reason why and things that could have changed. I honestly believe I changed my setup every single time. I tried different lanes and stuff. I don't think in the moment I could have really thought of anything else. The only thing that I kind of regret not trying was taking a very deep grip, because every single time I was staying like real up into his hand, but he was also staying very high up into my hand. And as a presser, I kind of realized, well, I should have maybe gone for that deep setup and seen if I could catch him on the bicep. But I don't honestly think, looking back at it, that would have made much of a difference. But I would have liked to have tried it. So.
Absolutely. Well, I think you did a great job regardless, and there's nothing like getting world level experience or international experience against somebody who's so different, has world level experience, and then to jump on the table with them, have a proper match. You learn so much from it. Even in a loss, it's where you learn the most, and so well done for going over and doing it.
I appreciate it. I think an interesting point to point out as well, I've never pulled someone that's his height that presses, because he actually used the step.
Oh.
And it's a different feeling, right? Because I think that's why I just didn't expect the press to come out, because I'm like, oh, well, like, since the height's not quite there, maybe not. But with the assist of the step, it made a big difference. So I think now I got to realize that's definitely a possibility to watch out for, is people on that step in order to gain enough height to get behind it. So.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's a good point. We've got a good question here from Mutt227, who says, lads, tell us your embarrassing arm wrestling stories.
Maybe you go first for that one, Matt. Well, I think of one of many.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, well, I've had so many times where I have almost fainted on the table, probably because I'm holding my breath like during a match, and you're exerting with everything that you've got, and sometimes it goes for a little bit longer than what you're expecting, and so you're holding your breath for a longer period than you would think, and this been very, very close moments when that whiteout has happened, and it's like, and I was like, oh no, I'm gone. And the last time it happened was only a few weeks ago, against Theon, actually, and it was a left arm thing, and he was setting up. He kept grabbing. He was going so high with his setup, and he was grabbing like my fingers and stuff, and just pinning me with it. And I'm like, well, I can't do anything if you're gonna grab my fingers. And then I thought, oh, screw it, I'll actually really try here, and I did. But I'm fighting with fingers against his whole body, and when it sort of, I think he pinned me, and then I felt that white outcome, and I was like, oh no. And before I lost my vision, I was like, I know there's a table here, grab hold of the table. And so I was like, I grabbed the table, and then everything just disappeared for about 3 or 4 seconds, and then it slowly started coming back. And yeah, you can see it. It's on the video. It's on my Instagram, and my legs like gave out for a second. I was like, but then I came back on, to the reality, and I was like, oh yeah, no, you're feeling strong, mate. It's doing good. Well done.
Play it off cool.
But yeah, that's I've seen that with a whole bunch. Jules almost fainted at one of his pools. Ash also has almost fainted. So yeah, there's been a whole bunch of that I've experienced. In terms of embarrassing stuff, I don't know. That's probably the only thing where it's really been something out of my control. Losing to people is never fun, but it's not embarrassing. It's just like, you don't want to lose. But yeah, what about yourself, Steve?
Well, I guess for me, like, other than the countless times of just like losing to complete randoms that don't arm wrestle, or when sweat ends up dropping on people's hands or whatever. The one that kind of just randomly popped on is I was arm wrestling Taryn once, and this was back when I was like 140 kilos. So there was a massive, massive weight disparity between me and Taryn. And I was pulling him backwards, and the whole table lifted up, and he came up with it and almost fell on top of me. So that one was pretty funny. The second story that comes to mind isn't so much embarrassing, it's like I felt really guilty story. Was we were doing an expo, and this was maybe 2 years into arm wrestling or something, and it was for Soldier On, like a charity thing in the city. And I had this like old man, like a shaky sort of old man come up. And when I gripped up with him, he was just so excited to be all like, I'm really strong. I've been training, holding bricks. Like, he was just very excited. But he was probably in his like 70s, 80s. So obviously, you let him win because why not? He got a lot of joy out of it. And he was so, so happy. And then he asked another person that wasn't an arm wrestler, but like one of the workers at the Soldier On booth to arm wrestle him. And this guy just, without thinking, just beat this old man. The old man got so upset about it. I was like, oh no.
Well, you filled him with a false sense of security.
And that's why I felt very bad, because I was like, if he had just walked away at that point, he would have felt great about himself. It would have just been a wholesome moment, but unfortunately not.
Oh, well, at least you made him feel good for a few seconds.
Exactly. Before I got cut through him.
That's right. Exactly. He brought back to reality. The truth says you don't breathe. Well, in certain positions when you're straining with everything you've got, I'm not gonna. Well, if you breathe, that's when you lose a lot of your structure, because obviously you relax. Deep breath into the lungs that's held there is going to be a lot more secure than when you breathe out. It just gives enough space that somebody can pull through, and that's definitely a technique that I employ, is watching my opponent if we're in a bit of a battle, as to when they take a breath. As soon as they breathe out, that's when I'll hit through, because that structure has now disappeared for that momentary second. But we've got Jules in the chat actually here, who says, I was at House of Pain and Seps was putting everyone in a headlock to see who could last the longest. I went until I got choked unconscious. Of course you did.
Yeah, that's a typical Jules moment.
Exactly. I don't know why you would do that, but okay. There we go. Controlled, tight breathing, slow. Yeah, sure. In the moment, Drew, everything, all your previous stuff can go out the window, and you just.
Even when you're doing like a 1 rep max deadlift and stuff, right? You're usually like tightening everything, taking a big breath in, and then you're doing the deadlift before you drop it. So I get why the mentality would be just like hold everything and hold everything tight. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's just in certain instances when that has gone on for a little bit longer than I was expecting. And your brain hasn't had any oxygen for such a little while, so you start getting that whiteout moment. There's so many compilation clips of people fainting like after doing deadlifts and stuff like that. So my favorite one was this guy who got the deadlift, like he really fought for it, gets the deadlift, drops the bar, cheers, and then faints and smashes his face straight into the dumbbell rack.
Wow. Actually, Matt, I do have a story from over here with my left hand that I think is kind of funny. I think I've told this story before to you, but we'll tell it to everybody else. One of my favorite matches I ever had was against Leon for my club. And the reason being, I always set up low in order to slip. And after I think like round 2 or 3, he figured that out. So he started gripping low. So as soon as he gripped low, I just post. So he'd change his grip to high. I'd drop it again. He'd grip to low. And I just kept swapping back and forth, and he got really frustrated. The great thing is, this happened again to me this time on left hand, where he did the same thing, and it just ended up being us going back and forth, and he just started laughing, and he just went, whatever, and just took the grip, so.
That's right. Well, the grip is so important in arm wrestling, and you can win or lose a match based on how you set up. But Daniel Zuck says, all the love from Adelaide to Stephen, from Daniel, Bobby, Caitlin, Lockie, Danny, Javad, Adrian. Have the best time while you're there. We're all looking forward to seeing you when you get back.
Oh, thanks, Danny.
Who's Danny there?
Just a good friend of mine from Adelaide. His brother is actually the Wild Horse, if you remember him from a couple of years back in arm wrestling.
The Wild Horse.
Sorry, the Dark Horse. Sorry, Adrian.
Oh yeah, Adrian. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
Danny's
his
his
brother.
brother. So yeah.
Oh right. Okay. Yeah. Haven't seen Adrian for a little while. He was doing very well. He was developing quite a nice press, and would love to see him back at the club if he decides to return at some point.
Oh, definitely, absolutely mega. He had probably one of the fastest rates of progression I've ever seen in someone from our club. So I'd love to have him back.
So will you be going to the arm wrestling club there again?
Sorry.
In
Up
Indonesia.
here. I don't know. I guess if I ever come back to Jakarta, I guess the only issue is like Jakarta is the part of Indonesia that's not exactly like a normal touristy area. Like typically, if you go up here, you go to Bali. So yeah, I don't know if I ever get invited back. They have kind of talked about there's a big event coming up. I'm not sure if it's here in Indonesia or somewhere else, but all of them are kind of going to compete, and they were trying to convince me to come up to enter. So I guess we'll see if something comes up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. So the next 2 weeks, so you're not in Jakarta, you're not in the same region as to where the club is now. You've traveled to a different part of the country, is that right?
Yeah, different city. We're here for 2 nights, and I go to another city for 2 nights, and then I finish off with 2 weeks in Bali. So,
2 weeks in Bali. Is there a club over there?
I don't think so, but I have heard apparently there's a very strong Russian arm wrestler here. I'm not sure the details, but I was thinking about hitting him up for a match, but now that my right arm's a bit buggered, I don't think that's going to happen.
Ah, there you go. Well, yeah, hopefully, I'm sure that'll be a lot of fun in Bali. There's it's a tourist paradise, really. So you should have a great time.
Just lots of cheap clothes, and probably just come back with a whole new wardrobe, I think.
Absolutely. Phil Woody says, Matt, looking at the thumbnail, it seems you're live with the 98 again this week for AW Science. He's intrigued. Absolutely. So it's going to be a new show that I'm going to be doing with Ryan Grondon from the 98% crew. And we've got our first episode coming up. It will be Friday morning for Adelaide, but Thursday night for America. So I'm not sure what that is for the rest of the world, but I think it's 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Thursday night. So whatever that is for everybody else. But yes, that will be a new weekly show that we'll be doing together, and it should be a lot of fun.
Anyway, Matt, I'm sorry to cut it short, but I am going to have to run. So
that's all right, mate. No, it's great to have you on here. Good to find out about how everything is going over there, and so we'll see you back in Adelaide in a few weeks.
No, I really appreciate it. Thanks again for having me.
No worries. Thanks, mate.
All right, bye.
All right. So yes, Phil's put a link there. Oh yes, to the live that we'll be doing for the AW Science. So yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Love the fact that been getting these opportunities to do these lives and these podcasts and with all these amazing people from the arm wrestling world. And yeah, just doing the Arm Wrestling Buzz show on Thursday mornings for us here in Adelaide, but it's Wednesday nights, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with the Arm Wrestling Buzz podcast with Paul Italia and Israel Chavez. So yeah, it's been an absolute privilege to be able to do that show with those amazing guys, and yeah, being able to meet some of the top guys in the sport. It's funny to me because Paul is so relaxed with talking to these guys, these elite people and the most well-known people in the arm wrestling world. And for me, like, I've never spoken to these people before, so it's like a very big treat. And Paul's like, oh yeah, so we're just going to have Michael Todd on the show, or we're just going to have Devin Larratt's going to pop in for a bit, or John Brazing's going to come on. And it's like, oh yeah, cool. And I'm like, oh my god. Can't believe I get to talk to these people. So it's been absolutely insane, and getting to know a lot of the North American arm wrestlers that wouldn't have the opportunity to be able to talk to otherwise has been absolutely incredible. And so it really does make the events more interesting when you know the pullers that are on the card. And when you've got a card like Knuckles Up, and you've spoken to all the people that are on the card on the show, and you sort of have heard their training methods and game plans going into the event, it gives you that background and that interest in the match where you've got an understanding as to what each guy is going to be employing and what method they're going to be employing. So, Neo says you're in the big leagues now. Well, I think I've just been very lucky in terms of given opportunities to work with people that are in the big leagues, and so yeah. But this whole sport has just been absolutely incredible. The community, arm wrestling community, and I've said this many times, is just everyone is so supportive and so friendly and willing to help each other and wanting to reach out. And if you're doing anything arm wrestling wise, you'll get messages from random people that will just say, hey, if you need a hand with something, let us know, or this is an opportunity, or maybe we could do a video, or maybe this, or and it's like, wow, this is incredible. These people are out here willingly and voluntarily providing help and assistance just because they want to see the sport improve and they see somebody that might be doing something which is trying to push the sport forwards or make it more well known, and they're more than willing to step up and say, oh, hey, I'm willing to support you in that, which is such an incredible thing. And so I feel very lucky to have found this sport, and that it is filled with so many amazing people, and to get the opportunity to talk to everybody that is involved in it. And it's just sort of one of those things with sports that if you're looking at sort of any mainstream sport or any popular sport that has a huge audience, you think, okay, well, the top guys in the sport of that, you'll never ever get to meet them, you'll never ever get to talk to them, you'll never have anything to do with them unless you were incredibly lucky to be able to get to like a network television anchor position or something or another. But with arm wrestling, I mean, you could send a message to Devin Larratt and he might write back. Like, it's very busy these days, but a couple of years ago, I mean, you could write to him, he would message you back, and it's just absolutely incredible to think that these people are the number one in the sport, or the very, very highly elite level, and they're more than happy to watch a video that you send them, or anything where you can just say, hey, I'm a big fan and I appreciate what you're doing, and they might say, well, thank you very much. What do you do in arm wrestling? And you can have like, oh my God, they actually responded, and then you can have a conversation with them. Which is just, you think, like, what other sport can you do that? It's just absolutely amazing. So yes, very, very lucky with that. What are we feeling with the Knuckles Up card from the weekend? Has everyone had caught up on the results now? And how were there any thoughts on how the event ran and compared to some of the other events around the world? And did we like the production? Did we like the matchups? So I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on that. I will sort of run through my feelings on the card as well, but I'd love to hear feedback on the event from you as well. Phil Woody says, you're putting in the work online, Matt. It's good to see and appreciate it. Honestly, though, it's the same. So many channels have hung up the boots. The many good options we have had have dwindled down. It is one of those things that it does take a lot of time and effort. And if people are jumping in expecting to make money, then they are doing it for the wrong reason, because you're not going to. You need to do it because you love the sport and you love talking to the community and you love just arm wrestling in general. And when I started at the club, I immediately started doing videos and editing them and putting them up, and just mainly for the people at the club, because it's like, well, no one else does this, and I think what we're doing here is a lot of fun and it's exciting and really interesting content. And I was like, well, if no one's going to film it, no one's going to put it up, I'll do it. And then so I just started doing it, and it sort of snowballed from there. But yeah, if people are looking to get into it and go, oh yeah, no, I'm going to get my channel monetized and I'm going to be able to make a living from arm wrestling, and it's like, you're probably not going to. Like, it's very difficult to reach those levels. It is possible, but it is a very small percentage of people that will make that, and it has to come from that passion first. You can employ all of the marketing strategies and everything that you like. But at the end of the day, if you don't have that passion for the sport, it becomes very obvious to the people in the sport, because they're the ones that are going to be watching, and they'll know instantly whether you know the difference between a top roll setup and a hook. Like, it's just, you can't be disingenuous and think they're going to be able to jump on this and push stuff out. I think there's been some other channels and stuff that have just had the opinion that they can grab other promotions sort of highlights and just talk about those, and then that would be good enough. But even at that point, it's just, and unless you're sort of creating the stuff yourself, unless you're involved in it, it's going to die out fairly quickly, because you're not involved in it directly. You're sort of just commentating on what other people are doing. So you can see that passion really has to be there for people to stick around and want to keep doing it. And unless you make Matt Connelly, must make at least 10,000 a day from this YouTube thing. Yeah, that'd be nice. 1,000 a day, just a lazy 10,000. I can tell you exactly the amount that I've made from arm wrestling instantly any time of the year. That is $0. I have not made a single dollar from arm wrestling at all. But and I've probably spent $30,000-$40,000 over the last couple of years. But as I said, I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't something that I was really, really very much into. And it's you sort of see the opportunities are there. It's like we didn't have tables. It's like, we need to get tables made. Well, who makes tables? Nobody makes them. Oh, okay, well, how do we get one? And then just figuring it out. Okay, we'll speak to a few people, and I ended up speaking to one of my tenants who's a handyman who I said, well, can you make a copy of this? I brought one of the tables down there, and he said, yeah, I can give it a go. And away you go. And now we've got, I think he's made 10 tables for us over the last couple of years. So there you go. There's tables sorted, and it's like, all right, if we want to put a promotion together, we want to put a tournament together. So how do we do that? Well, I guess we're going to have to figure it out. How do we run the brackets? How do we find a venue? How do we do banners and t-shirts, and how do we promote it? And so there's a lot of things you've got to learn. And for people that are not fully invested in the sport, that you can see very quickly why they would drop away from it. Phil Woody says, really well said, Matt, and a good assessment, mate. Thank you very much, Phil. And as I have said before, you running around and helping out with the setup of the Arm Gods event, I'm sure that you would not have done that unless you really wanted to see the event go well, and that arm wrestling was going to get the best possible platform that it could have. And so, you were volunteering your time to run around and do everything possible to make that event go well, as several other people were as well. And so, you do get people that are passionate about the sport that really want to see it succeed. And maybe it depends on your skill set. Like, maybe you've got the marketing side of things, and it's like, well, I know how to contact certain media outlets, and we can get the newspaper here, or we can get the local news to have a look at what we're doing. Or, maybe your skill set is in just being there and helping out, pick up stuff and pack up things. And, those people are just invaluable, because at the end of the day, I remember after AWE2, the event ended at like 6 p.m. and I was still there at 3 a.m. packing stuff up and loading up my car, because we had so much stuff that we had to organize and get ready. But it is a lot of fun when you get it all happening. The Drew says, getting so close to monetization so you can start making tens of dollars a month. That's right, tens of dollars. Exactly. If I was trying to make a living from arm wrestling, then I would have been homeless a long time ago, I think. I hope you don't run off to Bollywood. Maybe we'll be over in India on October the 1st, all the way through till the 23rd. So I'm there for a few weeks, just over 3 weeks. We'll be commentating for the Pro Panja event, which will be taking place there, which is an absolute privilege to be part of that. And they put on probably, I think you guys would be surprised if you haven't seen any of the Pro Panja stuff. Their level of production is second to none. I mean, the show that gets put on for this is absolutely stellar. Absolutely incredible. Erican says, yo, Matt, I just had my first arm wrestling practice. That's madly humbling. But I wasn't bested by every guy there. I can't wait for the next one. That's fantastic. Well done to you, Erican. Yeah, it is definitely one of those things when you go along for your first experience at a club. Even if you sort of have an idea as to the techniques and everything like that, trying to employ them is something very different. And when you get on the table against somebody that's, 1/3 of your size and they're absolutely impossible to move, and you're like, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I've been at the gym for 20 something years. I outweigh this guy and I know I'm way stronger than this person and I cannot move their wrist an inch. That's where you very quickly realize that there is a lot more to this sport than meets the eye. But well done on going along for the first practice. I hope that you don't get too sore and that you didn't go too crazy. It seems to be one of the things people do on their very first night, and always try to talk them out of going too hard too soon. But when they're having a lot of fun, it can be very difficult to get people to just sort of ease into it a bit more and not try to have just non-stop matches against everybody and they're trying to win every single pin. And it's like, no, just like ease into it, because otherwise you won't be able to use your arms for like 2 weeks. I dare you to rock a Fu Manchu moustache. I don't even know what that is. A Fu Manchu moustache. I'm quite happy with the beard. It's easier for me to do that. Ryan has gone fully shaved recently. He had the beard for quite a while. He changed it to a moustache. And now he's gotten rid of the moustache and he looks 10 years younger. It's like a 25-year-old Ryan Bowen. Erican has got the arm wrestling bud. Yeah, absolutely. And he's been watching for years. Just happened to meet an arm wrestler at the gym and he invited me to the practice. Lots of fun. Well, there you go. I hope that you're able to get into the sport and become one of the next arm wrestling aficionados. And it does take quite a while to sort of build up the conditioning in your elbows and wrists and forearms and biceps and everything to be able to take the strain of arm wrestling regularly. So give it a decent amount of time to ease yourself into it. And otherwise, if you do go really, really hard into it, you more than likely will get an injury. And we've seen that a lot with people that just, they're having a great time and they just want to keep coming back every week and they're still sore from the previous week. And then all of a sudden they've got a strain or they've got some sort of tendon issue, and it's like, well, those first couple of years are vital to work on technique and build the strength and conditioning in your joints, because it takes a long time. Erican says, babyface Ryan looks dweeby. I am a fan of Ryan. Well, it's a different look. He's got the different look. So he had the beard for quite a while, and it is one of those things when you get used to seeing somebody with a beard and then they get rid of it and they look completely different. I remember Billy Connelly, the comedian, was talking about, because he had a very long beard and it was down to about halfway down his chest, and he had it like that for many, many years. He said his beard was so long and he'd had it for so long that he completely forgot what he looked like underneath the beard, and he had no idea. And he said that he ended up, he shaved, he cut all the beard off, he shaved, and he looked in the mirror and he's like, oh my God, I look like a potato. So yes, it wasn't a positive outcome for Billy Connelly when he shaved his beard. Although he did have a good story when he got into a fight with somebody and he had the long beard, and he said that the man threw a punch at him and the man must have thought that Billy's chin was the length of his beard, because he's punched the beard down here, which has done absolutely nothing. It's just hit the beard and continued through. And then Billy said, is that the best you've got? And then the guy actually did hit him in the face, and he said, oh, I guess that wasn't the best you had. So, but yeah, it is one of those things. With facial hair, it does get itchy and scratchy, and some days you're just like, I should just get rid of it. But it is one of those things that can be a quite identifying characteristic about a person. And if you just all of a sudden get rid of it, you can really change your appearance very drastically. Phil Woody says, cheers. For me in the sport, my resume reads traveling fan, seminar organizer, travel guide, sourced sponsors, had Supermatch, been the camera, production man, and editor. What's next? Always fun. Absolutely. And that's the thing is that, you've got to wear a lot of different hats when you're putting an event together. And, some people struggle with that because they may have a lot of skills in one area, but you don't realize that you really need to delegate stuff. If you're not good at something, rather than spending the time practicing and learning and to get decent at something that you're only going to be using that one day, just get somebody else who knows how to do it, and then you're not putting yourself under that stress. Being able to delegate tasks and is a vital ability and skill if you're going to run an event. I'll just knock my speakers out for a second. There's so many cables underneath but you can't see. There's like microphones and all sorts of things going on, and you move your leg and then all of a sudden you've lost connection with this, and it can be very frustrating. That's another thing with if you want to do online stuff, like we had Dave before, who had some issues with his microphone, and it's just like there's stuff that happens all the time that's out of your control, and you do your best to try to mitigate it and fix it and work around it, but there's certain things that you can do and certain things you can't. But technology always seems to be one of those things that works or it doesn't. It depends on its mood. And, you can not change something and then all of a sudden it doesn't work, and it was working 10 minutes ago and you've literally done nothing and now it's not working. It's just, it can be very frustrating, especially when you're about to go live and you go like 2 minutes before you're going live and all of a sudden your camera just stops working and it's like, oh. Erican says, I think majority thought is Devon is going to beat Leonidas, but I really want Leonidas to win. I think that's probably the consensus there. I think Leonidas is a humble guy. I think he has a very disciplined work ethic, and he has put on some stellar performances in arm wrestling, beating Schoolboy, and he pushed John Brezink to his limit. And so, but when you're going against Devon Larratt, it's a whole different kettle of fish. I mean, he's basically the number 2 guy in the world, and although he has dropped down significantly in weight, and whether or not you could say, well, he's still number 2 or not is debatable, but he is definitely somebody that if you're facing that, it's almost facing the best in the world. And so for Leonidas to step up and go against Devon, he's got absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain, because if he loses, then it's like, yeah, okay, I guess that was what everyone thought would happen. But if he gets some moments, if he gets some stops, if he gets a pin, that's it really does solidify the fact that he is worthy of being up on that stage and worthy of being on the table with somebody of Devon's caliber. Especially, I mean, if he was able to win that match, that would set the stage for a bitter rivalry, I believe, with Devon. They'd probably run it back, and then you may get a trilogy match as well. So he has everything to gain and nothing to lose by going against Devon. And for Devon, it's a fun match. I think he's taking those that road of, I've gone against Levan twice and it didn't work out in my favor, and so now what's out there that is the most fun for me to do. And so, we saw him go against Chance Shaw, which was a bit of a last-minute thrown-together thing. And although that match was not a good match, it was. I thought it was going to be a lot more fun than it was. But I think that Devon will definitely be taking Leonidas seriously, and Leonidas is incredibly strong and powerful. He has the tools to be able to win the match, but I think Devon's technical ability, his setup knowledge, his endurance is just going to be too much for Leonidas. But as I said, I mean, if Leonidas wins some little moments, if he wins center, if he gets a stop on Devon, if he's able to get into a position where Devon's trying to vampire him out, and he uses the foul system to advantage and elbow fouls to get a restart rather than wasting his energy, I think that he has some options there and some ability to put on a really, really good performance. So it'll be a good match and a fun match. Nothing wrong with having fun matches at the elite level. And if he wants to be a world champion and wants to be known as one of the absolute best guys in the world for Leonidas, he is taking on the correct opponents. And if you're going, I mean, if your lineup of matches is Schoolboy, John Brasing, and Devin Larratt all in a row, you're basically going against like the Mount Rushmore of arm wrestling. And to get a win against Schoolboy and then put John Brasing under a tremendous strain to be able to beat you, that's already solidifying your position as one of the top level arm wrestlers in the sport. But yes, all right, well, I might go for another couple of minutes here and we'll wrap things up. And if anyone's got any last minute questions or comments or anything there that they just want to throw out, but recapping the big news, or the unfortunate news for us here at the AWE, is that Sarah Bachman will not be able to attend our event in October because of schedule changing. And originally Prapanja was going to be running in September, and unfortunately they had some issues with their schedule there, and they had to push it back by a month, which ran straight into our event here. So Ryan and I will be in Mumbai on the original date that was supposed to be taking place for the event. So we've pushed it back by 1 week, but unfortunately that was not a week that Sarah was available for the match against Ashley Hueta. But we will see a match for her anyway, as she is going to be taking on Keziah Harrington, who is our top level arm wrestler here in Australia. And so that will still be a very, very good match. Sarah, absolutely, yes. Unfortunately, not able to make it here. We had to push our event back by a week, and it just meant that she was not available for that weekend, which is unfortunate. But it is so difficult to get a weekend where you can get everyone that's available, and we've got an AWE Grand Prix 2 card with 8 guys competing on the event there. And so you've already got 8 people that you're trying to schedule and make sure that they're all available. And then you've got a main event as well. And then, there's all these other things that have to happen, production crew, and, the venue has to be available. And there's a lot of things that all have to come together. And we've had people that were lined up for the tournament who had to pull out because of, again, the schedule issues and weddings that were on, or all sorts of clash of dates and, that sort of thing, or things that changed. And so it can be very, very difficult to lock in and secure dates for so many people. But we do have the AWE Grand Prix 2 event, which will be taking place here on October the 27th. And we did run through the lineup before, and I'm just going to bring it up again because it's easier to read it than to try to remember it off the top of my head. But it will be a double elimination tournament, and the same as what we saw that we ran earlier in the year. Right, here it is. And so the competitors that will be in that 8-man tournament, we've got Ryan Bowen, we've got Rickard Bornman, who is the current defending champion for AWE, the heavyweight champion, and won the first AWE Grand Prix event. We've got Brett Coots coming in from Melbourne, who came second in the original AWE first Grand Prix tournament. We've got Taryn Broad, who is the Giant Killer, who is a young man here from South Australia in Adelaide, sitting around the mid to high 80 kilos. It's probably, 90 kilos would be 200 pounds. So yeah, for the pounds audience, it's around 200, maybe 195 pounds for Taryn Broad. And he's an incredibly strong hook puller. We've got Marcus Atirai, who will be competing as well, the Tahitian Wrecking Ball. He is 160 kilos, enormous man, and he has done some tremendous things in Australian arm wrestling. We've got the number 1 ranked Tahiti puller, who will be coming down, the Tahitian Giant, TNT. He will be competing in the event as well. So we've got an international competitor, the number 1 rank from that region, coming to compete as well. We've also got Joel Hewitt, whose nickname is Stretch, and he is a 6'8", 150 kilo absolute giant top roller from here in Adelaide, and he is an absolute weapon. So we've got some very, very big men in this field, and the final man in this is Charles Puri, who is coming from New Zealand, who is pretty much that number 2 rank behind Matawarengi Hedda Morris from New Zealand over there. And so that lineup is, if you're going to win that event, it's a bloody good achievement, because every one of these guys have the ability to pull that off. So Ryan Bowen, Rickard Borman, Brett Coots, Taryn Broad, Marcus Atirai, the Tahitian Giant. We've got Joel Hewitt, who is Stretch, and Charles Puri as well. So it's going to be an absolutely mega event. Thank you to Phil and Drew for putting up the links there for the AWE Underground YouTube channel. You can see the first event, the Grand Prix 1, that took place up in Brisbane earlier this year, and that is on the channel there that Drew and Phil are putting links up for. The T-Series events, which is our tournament series, we'll be looking to run an event here in December. Well, there you go, Drew. I'm just answering that question for you right now. December, we've been looking for a T-Series here in Adelaide. And Richard Borman. Rickard Borman. It's Richard Borman. This is James Lee Gillenwater. No, he's from South Africa, and the instruction given to me when I was trying to learn how to pronounce his name correctly was that I need to sound like I'm trying to start a lawnmower. So Rickard, so Rickard. Like, if I get that, then I think that everything else will come together in terms of the pronunciation. But there's a reason I'm not pronouncing the Tahitian Giant's name. I still haven't learned how to say that one yet. It's quite difficult. I've got it recorded so I can practice it. But yeah, some of the names that you get, can be quite challenging when they're from international waters, and it's not that sort of Anglo-Saxon name. It can be very, very tricky, and you always want to make sure that you do get it correct as respect for the competitor. So, right, yes, Ryan Bowen just sent me a message then. He just said, don't forget to get your visa application sorted, which is absolutely correct. We learnt that lesson last time. Oh, there you go. Rickard Borman has popped in himself, the man himself. That's a cool story, man. Yes, the Rickard Borman. As long as I get that sound. If you am I saying it correctly? I'm probably saying it wrong now. You'd be like, no, you've been saying it wrong the whole time. But a lot of people say Rikard, but I try to make the effort to make it sound genuine, and it's kind of fun to say it that way. Rickard. And there we go. There's a link to Rickard Borman's YouTube, and he has been doing amazing stuff. And we'll see Rickard Borman not only at the AWE Grand Prix event in October, but on the stage against Hollywood Don Underwood in January at Knuckles Up 5, which we learnt about at the Knuckles Up 4 event. And so amazing stuff to see Rickard Borman get the opportunity there. 2 months since the last video, says Drew. Yes, if you have a look at Instagram, he's posting daily on there. So I'd say that's probably where he's pushing his stuff, is more on the Instagram side of things. Yeah, Phil Woody says flying through to India. That's right. Well, oh, hello, boys. Why is everyone popping in right at the end here? Ryan Grondon has popped in. Hello, boys. Hello to you. We were talking about the Arm Wrestling Science podcast earlier, and we are looking forward to doing that show this week, the first one, and so it should be a lot of fun. And it's getting the opportunity to talk to arm wrestlers from all over the world, and yes, obviously the 98% crew doing amazing things. Their Friday night shows are legendary for running for 8-9 hours, and Ryan Grondon, the host of the show, does end up falling asleep most of the time, but then trying to pretend that he wasn't asleep. That's my favorite bit, is that he's very obviously asleep, and then he'll wake up they pretend that he was clicking the mouse. And it's like, we know you were asleep. You were asleep for 20 minutes. Yeah, so that show will be Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I believe, which will be Friday morning here in Adelaide. Shush says, Ryan. I missed that one. I got Drew's comment instead. The Drew says, I don't have Facebook, Instagram, Tik, etc. What's etc.? Is that a new one? No, that's fair. If you're just on YouTube, Drew, there is 15 the Drews out there, so they have to make sure that every single arm wrestling stream, one of them is in there, making sure that the links are being posted. So very much hats off to the Drew for doing that and helping us out there. But yeah, we have some exciting things upcoming. So yes, it's going to be October 27th will be the AWE event. And a couple of weeks' time, we'll see the Pro Panja League kicking things off. I'll be flying off on the October the 1st. I think it's October the 3rd that the actual event starts. And it's on the Sony Sports Network. So you can see it there. And I do believe they have an app where you can see it as well. But there will be some tremendous events going on, tremendous matches. And it is humongously popular over in India with a massive audience, and I'm not just exaggerating that. I am saying that is millions and millions of people that watch arm wrestling in India. Their tournaments regularly get thousands of entries, and yeah, it's unbelievable the support that arm wrestling has found over in India, and that is why it's such a privilege to be able to be part of their biggest event, which will be taking place. And it is their second season, the Pro Panja Series number 2. 98% to arm wrestling. Don't watch it. Don't watch and sub to this banned arm wrestling YouTube channel. Yes, well, they haven't been banned yet. And hopefully they won't be, but there's always a lot of fun that happens on the 98% podcast, especially on the Friday night. You never know who's going to jump in there and what they're going to say or what they're going to do. And because it goes so long, you can be on the show for a couple of hours and then disappear. And then somebody's like, oh, there was this crazy thing that happened on the show. And you're like, I was on the show. I don't remember that. And they're like, no, it happened 6 hours in. And you're like, oh, okay. So, yes, it is fantastic that the 98% crew does that. And it's just it's like a hangout. It's like a hangout on Friday night or Saturday morning for us here in Australia, and just see all the interesting characters that pop up in the arm wrestling world. And Pro Panja League there is the Drew helping us out with some links. So thank you so much for that. But I might wrap things up here, everybody. Thank you again for tuning in. And yeah, we did have Dave Stockbridge on earlier. He unfortunately had some issues with his microphone, but I'm sure that we'll get those sorted out next time he pops on. And Stephen Carroll as well has jumped in to tell us about how his match went in Indonesia, and becoming an international arm wrestler for the first time. And unfortunately didn't get the win on his right arm, but he did walk away with a victory on his left. So well done to Stephen for doing that. And thank you again to everyone in the chat. It's always a pleasure to... Dave says, I miss Dave, Boopy. Yeah, you can see him at the start of the episode. He was in for probably first half an hour, and we were talking about the AWE event. But yes, unfortunately, his phone, I don't know what happened with it, but he became like an alien voice. His voice became really high-pitched. I don't know why, and there was a lot of feedback. And he didn't touch anything. I could see he was just sitting there. It's the same thing with technology, and it just all of a sudden it just stops working. And it's like, why? What happened? Nothing was touched, nothing has changed, and now it doesn't work. So yeah, it is a frustration. But we did get 33 or 34 minutes of good communication. And so, yeah, it's great to have Dave Stockbridge on the show. But I will finish things up here. Dave thinking, how do I get off this stream? No, nothing like that whatsoever. All right. Well, thank you again, everybody. I'll give you a final double biceps here. All right. And good stuff, Matt. Good stuff to you, Ryan. Good stuff to you, Drew, Phil, everyone else that is in the chat. Appreciate everybody.